Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to another drawing session with good old Rod Gunn, the artist. Go grab your sketchbooks, go grab the things that you want to draw with, and let's learn some stuff today. So, yesterday, as I go through my sketchbook constantly and I'm just looking for little things to improve on, little places to fill in, and little things to actually fill out, I came to the conclusion that I have come up with a lot of cool little theories lately, right? But one really cool one has been the rule of thirds. So yesterday I spent a couple hours just working on this concept, right? And seeing what was like the issue, because I kept on drawing the head a little bit too long. So I used to always separate this into fourths. And that's how it would like work out for me. But it just looks better without that first part. So, me being reflective and me changing the ways that I see things, and me being more, let's see, more like tolerant of change, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you do like that, right? If you're drawing a profile, it's actually really easy to figure out where all your things are supposed to go. They go in that little tiny first little segment. Your ear is going to go after the second one, going into the back, and then your jaw is going to connect from here to whatever you have as your chin. Your mouth is going to be within this section, so it could be big, it could be small, it could be whatever you want, right? It just has to be within that area. So, and then you have the roundness for your forehead, and then you have this split for your hairline and your... So it just becomes a really easy way to map out your characters. Right? It becomes a really interesting, silly way to do it. Now, it's just a mathematical approach. You still have to apply a lot of very basic concepts like perspective and anatomy if you want to make these any relevant at all, right? If you want to make it look like it has actual anatomy, you still need to add anatomy. But it can be any shape you want, right? It could be any shape you want, as long as you know that the constraining proportions are supposed to be within that space. You're not going to be drawing outside of that, and it's going to keep your drawings nice and consistent. Now I'm going to show you guys how to apply this to a frontal view as well, and how to tackle that aspect of things. But as you guys can see, it's a very consistent way of creating different characters. And it doesn't have to be relegated to this animation style that I'm drawing. It can be relegated to any style, because it's just a mapping system. It's not a style, right? So if you wanted to draw something more like, I don't know, let's say comic book based, right? Let's draw like, I don't know, Wolverine or something. Whatever design you want to give them. Let's stay within that. My ear is going to go right here. And then my hair and all that stuff is going to be the difference between my chin and your hair is going to come out whatever way you want it. Right, so it doesn't matter what type of face you're trying to do. It's just more so a matter of knowing where the placement of your elements are. And it just helps to be able to see them like this. So that is something that I have been playing around with the last day or so, just one day of playing around with it. So I came up with a way to draw things in 3/4 as well, to be able to make it easier. So when you're drawing a shape, all you got to do is identify the first line that you draw is going to identify your 3/4 view. So essentially you're getting that angle that is going to divide the front and the side of your face. That is, you're not looking at the midline, you're looking at the angle in which you're going to find the side and you're going to find the front. From there, you can very easily divide things into 3s. Right? So you end up with that. You end up with 2 of them. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that continues in perspective. 1, 2, 3. Right? So you have those sections set up really, really quickly. Right? So what you're going to think about this as you have this shape, and this could be any shape, but we're just going to keep it as a box for now because it's just an easy concept to understand. So we are going to have our divisions. It could be in perspective. It could not be in perspective. Depends on what type of face you want to do. Divide that in 3. And then we're going to start using the same coordinates that we drew in order to map out our shape. So we know that this front second square, this one, is going to be where most of our features end. So that means that this one is going to be where our mask. Right, let me mask it out like this so it makes it more sense. Right? That would be where we get that little indent for our eyes in our nose bridge. Boom, it goes in. Boom, our nose comes out, and it comes out at that mark. Okay, this is going to be our forehead. It's going to be a little rounded, just like we did here. Okay, the second mark is going to mark where our ear comes out. This rounds out the back of our head. And from the jaw, from the ear to the jaw, right here, we have our line. And you have your face really, really simply and mapped out. So it's just this is like a geometric way of seeing things. But as you get better at it, you start just going at it and you understand the measurements a little bit better. Right? As you get better and more active at just sketching it loosely, you're going to start seeing a lot of improvement when it comes down to the placement of your elements, because you're just going to be dividing everything in 3s. Right? And it's going to teach you how to rotate your face. So you can play around with it a lot as a frontal view, or as a profile view, or as a front view as well. As a front view, you can actually, it's easier to just divide it into 2 from the front, huh? So if we have 2 in the front, or 2 in the front, and then 3 in the back, yeah, that seems a little bit better. So from a front view, you can just split it into 2. Not 3. Don't do 3. Just do 2. That splits your midline is literally that. So let's split it into 2. Okay, so you have your midline, and that's going to split. Boom. You have your eyes in this midsection, your nose, your eyes, your mouth and your chin have to be in the bottom part. The second line is going to have your ears. From the bottom of your ears down to my chin, I'm going to draw a line, just like I did here, just like I did there, just like I did there. Okay? Boom. Round out the top, and now we have a character. We have a relatively easy face too, right? It's a relatively easy. So, okay, so if we want to continue with this lesson, it seems like we have 863 people in the chat, right? But we only have 10 shares. We only have 10 shares, so that's not going to work. So let's bump that up to at least 50 shares. And we will continue our lesson. And if you guys want to hit that little like button so we can get to like, I don't know, 10,000, right? If we can get 10,000 K hearts and we can get 50 shares, we will continue the lesson as we have been going. This is a very interesting way of approaching things though, like, because this little square is normally the most important, right? This is the section that is the most crucial to understand, because that is where most of our features lay. And that little section can be small, can be large, can be big, right? But it all contains the same elements. It contains the eyebrows, the eyes, and the base of the nose. Not the entirety of the nose. It's mostly where the nose canal is. So, as you guys can see, every single one of these styles can be achieved very easily with the same premise. Doesn't matter if it's a pinup, it doesn't matter if it's a big bulky guy, it doesn't matter if it's an old man, it doesn't matter if it's a comic book character, it's a silly animation character. They all fall within the same premise. Okay. So this is a concept that you guys can apply to figure out your shapes a little bit easier. So it seems like this time of day is probably the best time of day to stream, because it seems like I get the people over here in the States and I get the people overseas as well. So I think that we are going to start streaming around this time every day now. So we have gotten to 86 shares. Woohoo! We beat the record. Let's continue. So from a front view, you can create any shape you want. Any shape. Any shape. Do the same thing. Split it in half. Split it in threes. And you're going to have very, very consistently accurate characters. Right? As long as you stay within the borders of the line work and the limitations that you set yourself, you're already going to have your cheekbone line, which is the edge of this corner. You're going to have a lot of information just by creating this. And if you want to give it depth, just when you give it your side, remember that that splits into threes, and then you can figure out all that stuff from there. Right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. And then down, it's 1, 2, 3. And then the more you know anatomy, the more that you learn anatomy, the more you're going to be able to enhance this, right? You're going to be able to add like jaw bones and cheekbones and temples and eyebrow lines and glasses, and all that stuff comes along with understanding the shapes a little bit more. But for now, at least now, you have the ability to draw an accurate face without much hassle. Now you can just go in and draw cartoons, or you can draw like caricatures of people really easy, because you'll be able to just, you'll see somebody at the coffee shop, right? And you'll be like, oh, okay, cool. This is the general shape of his face. He has a hat, so maybe that hat is going to take that upper third of his face. Then we're going to have the middle part, and then we're going to have his jaw. Let's say he doesn't have a chin, right? So maybe he's more like that. Cool. Just like that, I have most of the general information that a character with a hat would need. So then I just go, okay, does he have big ears? Does he have small ears? He has big ears. Cool. So I'm going to find the middle part in the front and the side of my face, right? Just like we did with the box. We're going to find the front and the side. So this is going to be where the front of my face starts. So I'm going to think about it like a little box. Okay. Now this side is going to be divided into two. So 1, 2. And then this side is going to be divided into 3. 1, 2, 3. After the second one, boom, 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 I'm going to have my ear. Regardless of how big, how small you want it. Okay. I got to have a little bit of space behind my head because I have my brain there. So all this area can be locked in already. Okay. This area for the beak of the hat is going to overlap anything in my face, so it can be drawn in already. And then from here, all I gotta do is draw all my features within this second area. The hat is splitting this second area off. So I know that my nose has to be right here, so I can follow this line and create like whatever outline I want for a nose, and then give it depth to come up with the sides. Right? This line has to be as a middle line, has to connect back to my shape, so I can use that as a guideline and then just create my depth through my shapes. My eyebrows will be covered by the hat, but I'll draw them anyways just because they're there. And then my eyes have to fall within this first section, right? This third section, and the midpoint, because that's roughly how my features curve around my face. My cheekbone is going to be roughly around here. And then my mouth has to fit within this general area because this is the side of the face, right? So you can't go onto the side of the face. So conveniently, this gets mapped out by just going around your nose cavity and then just creating like a little egg in the front. So you already have all your guidelines if you do that. Right? And then from there, just go back to your neck and whatever indication of a neck you have. Even if you don't have one, you would have a little bit of a shadow. Okay. So that is essentially what you do when you're trying to figure out a face. It's just really, really cool because it's something that you can do in 3/4, really easy. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So this is the front, this is the side. I'm going to draw all my features within my little box in the second space. My ear is going to fall after the second line over here. And then I can add all my features like hair and all that stuff on top of that, right? So it's just another way to see things. Something that I discovered yesterday that made sense to me. So I wanted to share with all of you. And I know most of the time I give you guys choices for the lesson and you guys get to choose, but this time around you don't. This time around I get to choose because I had something cool to show you guys. So it's just a very basic concept. It's still being worked out with its proper rules and fashions. But for now, it's actually working incredibly well. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I plan to take this concept and apply this to more complicated things. Let's say that I wanted to like start drawing, but I didn't want to draw a whole head. Let's say I just wanted to draw like a face part. I can draw just something like this to represent this box, right? And I know that something has to be, a third has to be up, a third has to be down. So if this is the second part, how am I going to distinguish these? I can just start drawing a face, and then I can worry about drawing the rest of it later. Right? I know the parts that are supposed to go here, so I can draw all the things that go within this space. Okay? I have my eyebrows, I have my eyes, I have my nose. Right? So now I want to draw the rest of the face. Well, I know that my face is going to have 1/3 down, so how big of a character do I want to make it? Do I want to make it into an adult? Maybe I should make the jaw really large, right? If I want like a younger person, maybe I make the jaw a little bit smaller. Maybe I don't even make that big of a jaw. Maybe I just make it super tiny, right? That is an option that I have. Do the same thing for the top. You can make a character that has a really big head or a really small head. It's really up to you. What kind of look do you want to do? And then from here, you leave this little space for the depth for your ear, because it normally falls behind your cheekbones. So I like to leave that curvature there. Right? But this is still the third in your drawing. So like I said, you can do anything you want as long as you understand where placement goes. So in this case, let's give this guy like a beard. Let's make him like an old folk. Right? And then for the hair, it could be anything you want. You just gotta give him a hairline and give him depth so he has space for his brain. So essentially, at the top of the head is just a container for your brain, right? So if you draw it really small, you're not gonna have a really big brain. But if you draw it big, too big, it's going to look really weird. But that's essentially where your brain goes. So you have to make sure that you have enough adequate space in the, in the end, the top end, to be able to fit your biggest organ in your brain, in your head. Okay. So again, you can start from a box and come up with the rest of it on the fly if you need to. Because all you really need to understand is the placement of things, right? Once you understand the placement of things, then everything else becomes style. Once you understand how things are supposed to be connected, where things are supposed to go in a body, then everything else becomes a style choice. Disco, it pops up on its live creator. Wait, what? Oh, you guys are going way too quick on the chat, so it's really hard for me to be able to keep up with what you guys are asking. We do have 2.1 thousand people in the chat. Jesus Christ. But we only have 191 shares. Just 191, and we have 2,000 people? Come on, we gotta up those numbers. Okay, let's continue on. Let's finish up this page, and then we'll draw a couple more. If we wanted to apply this to a more complicated concept like caricatures, right? We can take shapes that are really, really, really weird and then just split those, right? Take that concept that I just taught you, apply it to a really weird shape, right? So we have 1, 2 for the front, 1, 2, 3 for the side, right? And then this is going to be our feature zone because we drew it like that. Okay. So if we have that random shape after the second one, I'm going to draw my ear. Let's draw the ear. We got to fit a nose, an eyebrow, and an eye within this space. So we're going to draw a nose, some eyebrows. The eyebrows tend to just line up with the top line, and an eye. Okay. So I know that that's it. This edge right here is going to be my cheekbone. And then my mouth has to be within this area. My mouth and my chin have to be within that area. So let's make a chin. Our jaw is going to connect back here. So it's already there. And then my mouth can range anywhere within this gap. So I can make it really small up here. You can make it really large. In this case, let's make really pouty lips. Okay. And then just like that, we have an interesting caricature of someone. Now, if you started adding different features like, like people's hair and hats and all that stuff, then you end up with a really cool cartoon of them, right? You can start with random shapes and then figure out all the spacing and stuff like that after. Again, my eye has to fit within that structure. My eyebrow, my eye, and my nose have to fit within that structure. Whatever else you do is up to your imagination. Okay. Doing anything else on top of what you are being taught is an imaginative trait. So take advantage of that. All right. We have 36,000 likes already. Cool. So we'll take a second for a minute and I'm gonna pitch my books because you guys are awesome and you guys have. So I have 2 books called Art Block. Those books are meant for you guys to use as a reference tool. These books are all these drawings that you guys see on stream, all the things that we learn, all the things that we have managed to conceptualize and learn together. I put these all on stream and I put these all on books. So there's 2 versions of it right now for the 2 first books that we did. And the way that these are meant to be used, right? They're not just meant to be pretty books to have on your shelf. No. I want you guys to go in to these elements and I want you to grab your pen, your pencil, and I want you to start figuring out how I created these things, right? I want you to go in and draw on the book. Color it in. See if you can create contrast, right? See if you can create depth by just illuminating certain things in a scene, right? See if you can do like a whole story by just literally changing little things of the black and white drawing. See if you can create a contrast that looks good and see if you can create patterns by following the texture. Have fun with the concept of drawing over my drawings. That is essentially the whole idea behind the art block books. They're meant to help you break out of your art block and have a creativity spurt. So if you guys are interested, all my books are in my links in my bio. There's a couple there for you guys to choose from pinup books to more reference-based books like these. They're all there for you guys to take advantage of. And if you guys want a one-on-one consultation with your good old Rod and you guys want to show your portfolios and you guys want to ask questions, there is also a consultation service in the bottom too that you guys can schedule a call with me, or you guys just can DM me and figure it out like that. So let's draw more faces because faces are awesome. Faces are so cool. Faces, I want to draw them every day. That did not rhyme. My mouth has to be within that last section. Right. So as you take these knowledge and these understandings and these lessons, try to actually not use it as a way to define your style. Try to use these lessons and these teachings to help you refine the things that you guys already do, right? Don't aim for it to be like your solution to like your like drawing issues. Just see it as an extra arsenal that allows you to visualize things in a different way. And if you allow yourself to think like that with everything that you do, including the different styles that you do, different techniques that you manage, different, like awesome traits that you end up gaining throughout your career, add those to your arsenal of tools instead of relegating yourself to just being subjugated to that one style for the rest of your life, right? We all have that one friend that just literally has like no other like style. He doesn't like to break out of his shell, and he constantly complains that he is not famous yet or whatever. So don't be that person, right? Don't be the person that complains and then does nothing about it. If you're going to complain right and do something about it. Change it. Learn something new so that you can manage to change your dynamic. So 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Features. Even if it's more anime-ish, it still works. Mouth. right? Eyes. Eyebrow. So it doesn't matter what styling you go for. Again, it's just a placement theory. So placement is more important than actually knowing where things go, because placement is a universal thing. Knowing where your concept of your features go is a universal thing. It doesn't matter what styling you choose. Most of your features will fall within a third of your face. Your ears align with your eyebrows and your nose. So it's very easy to map out most of the features like that. And then once you actually understand the concept of drawing a mouth, then you're kind of set, right? You don't have to have an anatomically correct character to be able to create something. You just have to be able to draw those characters competitively and concisively to be able to tell stories, to tell comics, to tell, like, I don't know, to sell merchandise, right? It has to make sense in some way or another. Otherwise, 1, 2, 3. Otherwise, it just never clicks. And if it never clicks, then you're always going to be wondering, why do everybody else's drawings look better than mine? When you could be saying, why can't anybody's artwork look better than mine? All right, so that is going to be our lesson for faces. Hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys had fun. We're not done yet, but we're going to go for one more page, but we got to do another theme. We got to do something else, right? So what do you guys want to learn in your next stage of today? So we have 1.5 thousand people in the chat. So again, if you guys are looking for all these books and you guys want something that you guys can help me with or support me with, the art block books are going to be your best bet. There's digital versions of it and there's printed versions of it for all you guys that like to collect. And you guys can find them in the link in my bio. Everything you guys buy and you guys purchase from me goes directly to helping me buy new equipment, buy new cameras, buy new books and stuff like that to be able to learn so that I can actually teach you guys better. Most of the profits go to like paying rent and stuff like that, like light bills and stuff. So anything you guys help with helps me become a teacher more of a full-time position. So feel free to buy my books, donate, subscribe, all that crap. Female anatomy. Poses for animation. Poses. We've been talking about poses a lot though, but like I don't mind being repetitive. I'm gonna show you guys the very simple concept of the sushi bean. That is gonna be it. Okay. So if you guys want to come up with really cool poses and you guys don't know what you're supposed to be doing, just do this shape. This shape is very, very powerful. This shape can very easily turn into the body of a character by just creating a couple lines. So lines like these teach you how to create poses that normally would be a little difficult, like poses from behind, poses from underneath, and it gives you a very simple way to map out that perspective, right? So posing via simple shapes is very important. Okay, learning how to bend a basic shape is going to be critical in your career. So learn how to do it with a very simple one so that when you go in and you want to do something really epic, it's very easy, right? Because you can just take any of these concepts and apply all your anatomy knowledge to it, and you can create characters from these things. The moment that you start adding things that you understand, it becomes easy to create characters from these, right? And it doesn't have to stay relegated to the character shape that you drew, because you can always add mass and create characters that aren't necessarily what you drew. Right? You can draw different things, but just knowing that that pose is there helps out a lot. So I can make this, even though I made it thick, I can draw this into a thinner character by just thinning out my shapes and keeping that same anatomical structure, right? So taking these little tiny shapes helps out a lot. So keeping in mind that these are literally just basic shapes, literally basic shapes, just with two little lines coming in and swooping down, should keep it nice and simple for you to be able to not stay with a stiff character, right? Try to push it a little bit. Don't stay stiff. No up and down. Always try to add a curve to it. And the more you practice these, the better you're going to be at positioning in general, because you're just going to be able to switch things out really quickly. Even more complicated shapes from behind and stuff are going to become a little easier, because you're going to be able to see those shapes a little bit easier. Do that and start practicing this more. Yeah, like just practice your basic shapes so that these things become easy, so that you can draw characters looking in different positions, pointing their arms and foreshortening, the more you practice all these things, the easier it is to actually draw them, right? So you can have a lot of fun by just having fun and stop analyzing that you have to have super complex shapes at first. You don't. You just have to have a soupy. That's what I call these guys. I call these guys soupies. Soupies. Because all it takes is one soup. And just like that, you can create a bunch of really fun things. Like I said, this is an initial stage, right? This is like step 1. Step 2 and through like 15 is going to be learning how to apply your anatomy to that stuff, right? How to apply your perspective to them. How to apply concepts like foreshortening and stuff like that is going to be a constant thing that's going to, like be needed in your life. And if you don't understand how to do that, then, well, it's going to be a little hard for you. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. I built my 15 first initial years of my career without knowing any of this. It wasn't until I learned it, though, that I like exponentially jumped up and created like something for myself. So it was not that initial rush that I learned. Yeah, it got me a lot of places, but it limited the amount of ability and knowledge that I could actually apply to my things. So if I learned how to draw a character, right? Say I have this character. Well, if I didn't know anatomy, I wouldn't know my hip bones are here. I would just know that my legs are there. So therefore, I couldn't change this one going up and that one going down easier. Okay? So by doing that, I gave myself a little bit of perspective. If I change the rib cage angle within that shape, now I have an even more dynamic character, right? Knowing that my arms connect to my collarbone allow me to know the angle in which my arms are going to go. So that's another dynamic thing, right? I know where my arms are supposed to come out from, so I can pose my character anywhere that I want because they come from the collarbone. That's knowledge, right? That's not style. So understanding that part of anatomy helps me be able to do that. Understanding how my neck connects to my body is very important as well, right? It's kind of like a rubber band tube, but where does it connect? So it connects to the collarbone. That's why it's important to learn the collarbone. The ears to the collarbone. And from the ears to the collarbone. Your collarbone is essentially the pocket where your head comes out from. So you have like this little baseball diamond thing at the top of your head, right? Where your shoulders are attached at the sides, your pectorals, but you end up with this really open gap from the rib cage in general. So your neck is like a tube that comes out from there, and then the rib cage has muscles that wrap around it. So you end up with a situation like this, right? You end up with your rib cage, the top of your rib cage ends up looking more like this. This is the bone. These are your muscles and your rib cage that wrap up. And at the end of the day, it looks something like this when you're drawing. Right? It's that same concept, but it's just simplified or with less lines. So when you're posing your characters as well for your head, you have your rib cage and you have all this range of motion, right? You can move your head in all these different positions because now you know where your head connects to. So if I have my collarbone and I draw it this way, I know my head is supposed to come out from here and it connects to my sides, right? So if I know my neck is supposed to be in that area, it's going to be a lot easier for me to draw my shoulders, my pecs, my back muscles, and then just my rib cage in general as a sphere, divot, hip bones. Hip bones can literally be that simple. And then we're going to draw it into perspective. Right? These are going down and getting smaller as they get down. So therefore, that in this case, if he goes up, his hand would be way bigger because he's going up. He's going to be holding something. Right? If this is the arm, from here to here, there has to be two sections. And one of them has to be bigger. So I'm going to draw one behind it and then the arm connecting back to the arm. And just like that, I have a cool pose of a character grabbing something in perspective into depth. Mostly because I just know where things pivot. Like if I needed this arm up and not so stiff, I know that my shoulder's going to be right here. So I could change it up any way that I need. I know where it comes from and I know my basic anatomy. So it's easy for me to move it. If I need to make a cooler pose, I can always make that too. Right? So that is another point in posing. You need to understand where things are supposed to go. Understanding where your arms go underneath your collarbone. Your hip bones indicate where your legs are going to come out from. So your hip bones are literally just a tube, like a macaroni tube, pointing forward a little bit. Right? Just a macaroni tube pointing forward. That could be your hips for characters that have simple legs, or that could be for super muscular characters too. It all depends on how much anatomy you want to put in there. Right? So as long as I understand where these legs come from, I can draw something as simple as a little chibi leg, or I can draw something as complex as a pinup leg. I know where it connects, so it's irrelevant the styling that I choose for. Same thing with the arms, same thing with the legs, same thing with everything. Cholesterol, knowing where to put the shadows on a character. I don't even use shadows. Have you guys noticed that? Have you guys realized that I don't use shadows? And I still get super, super, like, depthy characters? I don't use shadows. So shadows are not a relevant factor when it comes down to drawing. You don't need to learn how to draw shadows. Shadows is a lighting thing. Shadows is an issue of like lighting. So if you want to create really, really cool characters with depth, don't focus on your shadows. Focus on your shapes. Focus on your actual construction. Your construction is more important than like your shadows. Like you don't need to draw shadows to create depth. You don't. This could be masculine, like super buff, like type of musculature, or it could be nice and simple going into, it doesn't, you can have a six pack or just have a slender belly. You can, when my arm is supposed to come out here, so I can have like a really buff arm, or I could have a really skinny arm, because the concept itself of an arm is the same, right? So it's irrelevant what type of anatomy you draw or what style you draw with. What's more important is you understand the placement of things and where things go. Okay? That is way more important than learning all the anatomical correctness of things. So we're going to focus, for posing, you're going to focus on your rib cage and you're going to focus on your hip bones. And this is the most simple way that you guys can break it down, right? A sphere and that. These connect, and this middle part is your squish zone. Your squish zone can be anything you want. Your squish zone is a soft tissue, right? So this could be big, this could be small, like bring it in a lot more. You could adjust the belly to the middle part of it that covers your hip bones, like a pregnant lady. Right? All that area in the middle is your squish zone. Your squish zone is where your abs and where all the belly button and stuff like that go. So we have your rib cage, your collarbone, your hip bones. This area from your crotch to the inside of your divot, this is your abs. So that's very easy to just identify as your abs. These are your love handles. So depending on how you want your love handles, you can make them wider, but they always end up at your hips. Okay? So whatever you decide to do with these sides is your choice, but it's always going to end up at your hip. Oh, my ink runs out all the time. Like I've gone through like 6 pens. We just kind of switch them out. I did find a cool new pen though. Like this is like a pressurized pen. Whenever I click it, I can draw upside down with this. So someone sent me this just to like test it out. The thing is, this pen is really cool. It's really nice, but it costs like $7. It costs $7 for a freaking pen. So like me being an advocate of things that are cheap so that people can afford to be able to draw with them. This is kind of out of the price range of what I normally let have people buy, because a $7 pen is not something that you're gonna be able to draw consistently with. This is not, once this runs out, which will be soon because I'm already like 3/4 of the way down, and you know these are 10 cents. So 10 cents versus $7, I can buy 100 of these and still be incredibly okay. Different width hip bones give you different width proportions, right? Different width for your hip bones, for your even your openings of your hip bone, you can be the same size, but just have them wider, and you end up with a completely different set of structures because now your legs have to be that wide, right? And you can have bigger stomachs, you can have smaller stomachs, get it closer if you want. Like it really is going to be up to your imagination what you do with this knowledge, right? But understanding those two concepts, now you can be like, okay, my rib cage is going to be this way, my hip bones are going to be this way, and I just got to connect them all. So you can start coming up with cooler poses by just switching out the angles of these two elements. And the more that you practice, the more you do it, the easier it is, and the easier it's going to be able to do that. So posing in itself is not necessarily like contrapposta, angles, upside down, line work, going zigzags with a flow line, and that's the spine, and you have to have compressed and squishy parts going throughout your whole body. And yes, those are all techniques for posing, right? But if you don't understand where things are supposed to go, this is impossible. You can't draw a leg going in that angle if you don't understand how a leg comes out of a body. You just can't, right? So if you don't understand the basic premise of your hard surfaces, just a very basic concept that has to be the simplest way that I've seen somebody explain how to draw anatomy, right? Once you understand this in basic shapes, then everything else just becomes a measure of style and how you want to represent these perspective points and these angles and everything, right? So understanding is more important than knowing how to draw the thing. And I'm going to repeat that over and over and over until you guys pay attention and actually do it. Angles looking up. Again, it's the same thing that we did before, right? We just divided into 3. That just means that my top part is going to be a little smaller, and then everything else is going to be seen from the bottom. Right? So even positions like that are a little bit easier when you just make it into the rules of thirds. How did you draw hairline? Well, we went over hair a couple of days ago, actually yesterday, but hairlines are very easy. You have your head shape, right? You have your 3 parts. This upper part is your hairline and your forehead. This middle part is your eyebrows and your eyes and your ear. And your mouth is in the bottom. So this upper part of your thirds has to be your hairline and your forehead. So all you got to do is draw through your shape. Once you split it in 3s, draw through your shape so you can get that top part that's going to be dictated to your hair. You got to draw through your shape, through front and back, so that you understand where your ears are going to intersect, have your space for your sideburns, and then you can have your hair gloriously on the top of your head in any fashion that you choose. Right? If a beanbag box method is not going to work for you, you can try something. What? Swoopies. Yeah, the swoopies are good too. What is it the easiest? Can you draw the Joker? Yeah. The Joker's actually not that hard to draw. The Joker in itself, he just has a like a bunch of basic like pushed anatomy, right? So his eyebrows are normally really angled in. So our third is going to be right there. 1, 2, 3. Right? Our nose canal is right here, but his nose is really long. So it's going to cover a little bit of his face. Right? Then we have the mouth. The mouth normally extends past and breaks through anatomy, so we need to understand how cheekbones work first. Right? We're going to draw our cheekbones within our feature area. We're going to draw our evil eyes for a Joker. Okay? And then our mouth is going to come all the way up to our cheekbone, because that's where it stops. And it's going to cover all the area underneath. Now, the trick to doing poses like this is understanding that your teeth don't go all the way to the edge. So you're going to have a bunch of negative space. Okay? Your chin is underneath your mouth. And then I just got to connect my ears to my jaw. The hair, I forget how he has his hair, but I have a feeling it's kind of like this. Right? So essentially, a face like the Joker is not necessarily hard if you understand where things are supposed to go. And it's very easy to draw faces that have overly exaggerated, like smiles and stuff like that when doing this rule of thirds thing. Because all you got to do is move your bottom part of your face to be more like that so that you can accommodate for that big mouth. Right? Even if it's something a little bit different and you don't necessarily want to draw an evil character, you can still draw a pretty cool, gumpy character by doing so. Right? So it doesn't have to be an evil character to have that smile. It's a correlated thing. The Grinch and stuff like that is pretty much the same thing. Another thing you can do, if you have a very prominent feature, you can draw the feature first, right? And then divide the rest of your shape into your thirds. Whatever you need to do to get to the desired result, right? That rule is just a concept. It's something that you can take into consideration if you really feel like it. It's not something that necessarily is going to fit everybody, but it's a concept that is easily approachable and very easy to adapt to most things that you draw. I always have problems with drawing someone from behind, like a back view. Oh, okay. So that one's an interesting one. So you're drawing somebody from behind, right? So you're normally very good about drawing your characters from the middle, from the side, from perspective, from profile, but for some reason those back views are so hard. So let's talk about those back views. The reason that those back views are a little bit harder is because we are taking these concepts and we're overcomplicating them. We're trying to see more from the front or from the back than we normally get to see. The same concept from the back and the front apply whenever you're looking at something from the back. So let's split up our character into a box, right? This is the back of the head now instead of the front. if I draw my shape through, I can figure out the front of my head as well. So I can come up with all my lines in perspective, right? So now that I have my 3 and my 2, right? I know that this is the back of my neck, so that's my spine. Okay, that's going to have width for my neck. My rib cage is still going to be right there. It's not going to go anywhere. So my neck is going to be around there. My shoulder is going to be on the side. At the end of my collarbone from the front, right? So my ear is going to be after the second one, but this ear, instead of pointing back, I'm going to see a little bit of the back of it, right? I would see a little bit of the back. Would I see this ear? Maybe a little bit. Second line, ear, kind of pops out. If I curve my head in a little bit, it pops up. Okay. Then when we move on to the front, this top part is rounded, right? This part right here is when your features show, but it's rounded, but it just curves in and out for your cheekbone. That's all you would see from this angle. Your jaw would go from this side to the middle of your face and from this side to the middle of your face. So you would have something along the lines like that. As you can see, you don't see any features in the front. The nose and stuff like that tend to be a little bit out of sight, right? Because you're drawing through your shape, your nose would be over here. So that's why you don't see it. Your nose would be in the front over here. So all you see is a little bit of the back of the jaw, and you see a little bit of your temple and mostly the back of your head. If it's a little bit less, you still split it into 3 for the side, 2 for the back and the front. Figure out you're drawing a box, so this you're seeing through your shape so that you can figure out where the front is, right? This is your nose line. So if I would have to draw a nose about this big for it to show up from the front. It's my cheekbone, my mouth. So I would have to draw a nose really big for it to show from the front, right? That's a really big nose because it's coming all the way from this middle line over here. So normally you don't see the nose, but when people add it and people don't add the back of the jaw, you end up with a very weird shape. So yeah, whenever you're drawing somebody from behind, you're seeing the forehead into the cheekbone, into whatever leads to the jaw. You might see a little bit of an eyebrow, maybe a little bit of like the eye. But for the most part, you end up seeing a lot of forehead like indentures, right? You don't really see much of the nose as you turn. Also, the eye is a sphere, right? So if it's a sphere, as you rotate around, you're going to see a lot less of the eye, right? It gets to the point where you just literally see that. So the more you rotate around, the less of the eye you see too. So you don't always see the eye. But when people do like positions where you're supposed to not see the eye, right? It's like, let's do that. And then they still draw it. That just looks super weird, right? That just looks really weird when in all reality, not drawing the eye would probably look a little bit better. Sometimes you don't need to draw the detail. Sometimes the hand does hide. Sometimes the arm does not show. Sometimes the neck placement. Neck placement is very easy. As long as you understand where your ears are, and that involves understanding where both of your ears are, not just the front one, understanding where both of your ears are by drawing through your shape is going to give you the ability to draw your neck really easy, right? Because you have access to both those connection points that pivot your head, it's very easy to draw the neck. Ear, ear, body, collarbone, neck, neck, neck. Even on super simple cartoon shapes, it can be done like that. You know how like most of you guys still draw with like the little swoopy part for the cheekbone? Because that's what we call the Elroy Jetson, by the way. Elroy Jetson. Because Elroy Jetson used to have, from the cartoon, used to have that. And it's a very commonly used term. But even characters like this that might not see much, that have much anatomy, have an ear, right? If I have an ear, I have a second ear. If I can trace and find that, I can choose that to be the guidelines for my neck. Can you go through the upper view and lower view of the head? So when you're looking, well, first of all, if you're having issues with that, it's probably because you have issues moving things in perspective, right? If you have an issue drawing a face from the top, it's not because you don't know the trick to it. It's because perspective in itself, looking up, is hard for you, right? If you have trouble drawing something looking up, it's because you have a trouble rotating that head up. You have trouble rotating that head down. So the issue isn't necessarily that you don't know how to draw the face in those angles, it's that you don't know how to draw shapes in that angle. So instead of going in and trying to draw a face in those angles, I'm going to challenge you to this, right? Draw a sphere, draw the connection points for the ear, and draw a jaw that goes to the front of the face. That's it. Draw a top, draw the ear, and then to the front of the face, connect the jaw. If you can do this in all sorts of angles, you're going to master the ability to draw the face in most angles. You're going to not be juxtaposed by, oh, what happens if you have to look up this way? Well, it's a basic shape, right? It's a basic shape. And then you can apply all your other concepts that we talked about, like your 2 in the back, 3 in the side, to be able to come up with all your different elements and how they connect. But to be able to just draw the shape like that, you need to be able to know perspective. And perspective is very easy to practice because you can just draw spheres and draw eyeballs on them. And see where you mess up. What's hard, you can even give them mouths if you want, right? Learn how to do this to a perfect level and then move on to the rest of your face because it all correlates, right? All this stuff correlates to each other. Like having a simple face like this doesn't mean that you have to be relegated to just drawing simple faces like that. You can go in and apply all your knowledge of anatomy to it and create all your really, really interesting characters, right? It doesn't have to be relegated to a simple sphere. What you do with that sphere is like completely up to you, but you have the possibilities are endless. You can draw anything you want. And understanding those concepts is the hard part, right? Understanding how to unlock that imagination and like actually apply it to what you draw is very, very taxing. But with these little simple rules, it's just a much easier concept to tackle than thinking that they're unattainable, or just not something that you can do. Character design is hard because a lot of us don't understand it, right? A lot of us don't understand the elements of anatomy and perspective that are required to be able to come up with really cool characters. So hopefully with these little rules that I've taught you guys and these little lessons that I teach you, that I hopefully make things a little bit easier for you guys to comprehend. And if you guys do, please share with me online. I love seeing your guys' work on social media. If you guys tag me in your things, I will probably be like lurking and checking them out because I just love seeing people put the things that I teach into practice. And then in time, you won't even think about the proportions. You will just be like, oh, cool. That is where something's supposed to go, right? So at first you're thinking about these rule of thirds, but eventually you just forget the lines are there and you just start drawing without them. And it's going to be incredibly cool, incredibly easy, and you guys will see a lot of improvement really, really quick. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. If you guys want to support, there are books that you guys can purchase. They're all in my links, and you guys can find all the sketches that we've done before on both YouTube and in those books. So if you guys are interested in learning my style, you guys want to learn how I draw, and you guys want to practice alongside with me, purchase one of these books and then just start drawing over it, right? Just start drawing over it. Use it as a reference tool to help you guys improve. Don't think that it's because it's my artwork initially that you guys can't benefit from it. You guys can go in and draw things on top of my books. I encourage it, right? So that you guys can learn the concepts and no, you won't be messing up the book. You guys will be essentially just adding to it. So it'll be an evolving piece of art for you guys as well. Thank you guys so much for buying my shit. Thank you so much for listening to my ranting. And with that being said, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. I love you all. I will see you guys most likely tonight at around midnight for another stream. And with that being said, have a wonderful day. Take care. Have a wonderful Sunday. Love you all. And like I always say, live a little, laugh a little, love a little, and draw a lot. All right? Take care, everybody.